So, you just started CrossFit and you're seeing some pretty decent results. And now you're thinking, well, if I'm seeing results from this, more is better, right? So how much volume should you do? Now let me caveat this discussion and first say this. I'm not doing the whole intensity versus volume discussion right now. That's definitely something I will broach or attack in the future. But right now, I'm going under the assumption that you as a newbie have space and have the ability to do more volume. So let me caveat that and say, more isn't always better. Just because you feel great and you're losing weight doesn't mean, oh, okay, well, if I'm losing weight and I'm doing 1 Metcon a day, if I do 2 Metcons a day, I'll lose twice as much weight. That's not how that works. And that'll change a lot of different things. It'll change how much you're eating. It'll change your recovery. It'll change how often you can go. There is absolutely nothing wrong with doing 1 Metcon a day, because your goals, how much you work out should have a plan and based upon what your goals are in the future. So, I'm going to caveat and say that volume and doing more isn't necessarily always better if you start off. But if you do want to do more volume and you are looking to obtain more volume or do more, then there are some good ways to go about it. And the first thing I will say about that is structured programming. Like the idea of having a goal and having a set structured programming for it. Okay, so sometimes people think, oh, I'm gonna add more program, I'm gonna do more volume. And so they'll throw in like, what is Rich doing? Or my program, what's Jacob doing? Or what's Matt doing? Or what's Tia Tara Clooney doing? And the list goes on. And they think, okay, well, if I do what they're doing and how much volume they're doing or just add it on the end, I'll be just like them. And that's never true, absolutely never true, right? Their programming is focused on them and is built for them and structured for them. So my first main advice to someone who is thinking, I want more volume, assuming that it's good for them to add more to it, I would say get a coach and do some PT in your gym. And going back to my previous discussion, hopefully you've chosen a gym that has good coaches that care about you and are willing to do PT with you. Now, I'm not gonna get into the discussion of, yes, PT is usually expensive. Number one, I think it's worth it, but that's a video for another day, right? So I would say, first of all, get a coach who cares about you, sit down with them, say, hey, I wanna do some PT with you, but the first thing I wanna do is have a goal setting session with you and lay it out and see if it's gonna be worth my time and my money. I think you should, as an athlete, have the ability to kind of let them know that and see what they're capable of. So sit down with that coach and say, hey, I want to lose weight, or I want to back squat 400 pounds, or I want to be able to pick my kids up and play frisbee golf with them per se. You have these goals. Sit down with them, tell them your goals, and then have them write out a structured program for you. And that's what if you have a coach that's worth their salt, they should be able to do that. And I think that is a great way for adding volume. Now, I'm assuming on top of this PT, you're also doing class. So make sure the coach knows that. Hey, I'm trying to add an extra volume, therefore I'm coming to you to do PT. And make sure that when they do the PT, they realize that. And I think doing PT is a great way of adding in some extra volume, but not just volume like, oh, I'm just gonna do some extra burpees because. No, there's reasons behind it. And there's reasons for the volume because you have a goal setting sesh that started out the PT. Now, let's say like, oh, I can't have the money to do PT, or I can't do PT. What are some good ways to add in volume? And that's a great question too. And so usually for me, if I want to add in some extra volume, there needs to be a reason behind it. I need to be accomplishing something. And so when I add in volume, sometimes it's usually the purpose is I want to become better at a skill or I want to accomplish something. So let's say for instance that I want to be able to do double unders. That's a great reason to add some more volume. And it doesn't need to be mind-numbing, body-destroying volume in order to accomplish double unders. Instead, what I usually tell folks is, back in the day when I first started CrossFit, I would set aside 10 minutes in the day to practice some skill that day. And it wasn't the same skill every day, because if you practice the same skill every day, you're probably either one, gonna hurt yourself, or two, gonna hate your life. So maybe rotate it. Maybe pick a couple different skills. Maybe pick 3 or 4 skills that you aren't good at, and then treat that as some extra volume. But it's not extra volume that's just like, oh, I'm just gonna do some extra burpees, like I said. Instead, the volume is focused on helping you accomplish goals that you want to create, or you already created. So from my perspective, set aside 10 minutes. And if you're like, oh, I'd really like to improve on chest to bar pull-ups, then say to yourself, hey, every minute for 10 minutes, I'm gonna try and do 10 chest to bar pull-ups. And then if you get that, then maybe 2 days from there when you try it again, be like, okay, last time I did 10 and now I'm gonna see if I can do 12. And that's how you increase some volume. But at the same time, increasing volume, but also learning new skills, which is also super important in the sport of CrossFit. So hopefully guys, hopefully that helped on the idea of if you're new, should you add volume? And if you decide that it is good for you to add volume, how should you add volume? Whether it's through a PT or maybe through a skill session. Hopefully that helped out. I didn't broach the idea of personal training and I didn't broach the idea of intensity versus volume. I will save that for another day. Anyways, thanks for watching guys. We'll talk to you guys later. See ya.